How much thought have you given to ethics in educational research? Well, let me explain. All researchers must take ethics into high account during any research. The safety of anyone involved in a project must be maintained. The two overriding rules of ethics are that participants should not be harmed in any way, physically, mentally, or socially, and that researchers obtain the participants' informed consent. What does informed consent mean? Well, all participants should be making the decision to enter into the research by their own free will and should have an understanding of what the study is about. Make sure to let them know of any dangers the study may involve. Keep in mind, if a person is under the legal age or not in the mental state to give consent, permission for their participation must be gained through the parents or legal guardians. All participants are assured of confidentiality where researchers promise not to disclose participants' identities or information that could lead to discovery of those identities. This differs from anonymity in that the identities of anonymous participants are hidden from even the researcher. On the topic of confidentiality, the Family Educational Rights and Privacy Act of 1974, or FERPA, was developed. This organization helps in the protection of students' educational records and identities. For example, written permission from the student or the parent guardian is needed when attempting to attain data. If you are attempting to gain information from a large group of students, understand that it must be obtained by gaining individual consent. There is no shortcut here. Safety of all participants is crucial in research studies, so researchers must be sure not to expose anyone to unnecessary risks. Enter deception, which at times may be unavoidable, but even these studies should be run ethically. Advisors and the HSRC or IRB can help in this process. Examples of these types of studies may include those concerning race, culture, or a study where behavior in a natural environment is being observed, such as in a classroom. Qualitative researchers, because of their closeness to participants, must pay special attention to ethical issues and view informed consent as a process that evolves and changes throughout the study. Qualitative researchers may witness dangerous or illegal behavior and may have to make ethical decisions on the spot. A researcher should have an ethical perspective that is very close to their own personal ethical position during their study. Informed consent should take the form of a dialogue that mutually shapes the research and the results. Researchers should also think beyond the methods they plan to use. They must identify broader social principles that are integral parts of who they are as researchers and as contributing members of the communities in which they live. Researchers who are part of a professional organization have to follow the ethical principles of their organization. These principles and professional organizations include the following: ethical principles of psychologists. This is the most definitive source of ethical guidelines for researchers. The ethics code is intended to provide guidance for psychologists and standards of professional conduct that can be applied by the APA and by other bodies that choose to adopt them. The American Educational Research Association, a national research society, strives to advance knowledge about education in order to encourage scholarly inquiry related to education and to promote the use of research to improve education and serve the public good. And the ethical guidelines adopted by the American Anthropological Association in 2012. Prior to the 20th century, human subject research was unregulated in the United States. Throughout the 20th century, government and professional regulations were developed, as well as code of ethics. The National Research Act of 1974 led to the creation of a standard set of federal guidelines for the protection of human research participants. Most hospitals, colleges, and universities require that proposed research activities involving human participants be reviewed and approved by an institutional review board prior to the execution of the research to ensure protection of the participants. Action researchers should provide institutional review boards with all the necessary university-based requirements. Action researchers should provide all stakeholders, including review boards, school district administrators, and parents with data collection plans to clearly minimize data sources that may be construed as providing evidence that could be used in a coercive manner. Now, do not think that you're going to barge into a school or facility and be able to perform a study simply because you are a researcher. The first step in acquiring needed cooperation is to follow the required procedures in the chosen site. A formal approval process usually involves the completion of one or more forms describing the nature of the research and the specific requests being made of the school or other system. The key to gaining approval and cooperation is good planning and a well-designed, carefully constructed study. After formal approval for the study is granted, you should invest the time necessary to explain the study to the principal, the teachers, and even parents. If these groups do not cooperate, you will likely not be able to do your study. If changes in the study are requested and can be made to accommodate the normal routine of the participants, these changes should be made unless the research will suffer as a consequence. The feelings of participants should be monitored and responded to throughout the study if the initial level of cooperation is to be maintained. Human relations are important when conducting research in applied research settings. So remember, when conducting educational or any research study, take ethics of the research into account. Make sure you seek help when needed from professional organizations or advisors, follow procedures, achieve cooperation, and above all, keep everyone safe.